Oh, yeah. What's up, GameLeapers? This is Coach Cheeks, and in today's upload, we're going to be discussing the 12.7 champions who got changed and what has happened to their win rates in the last few days since the patches hit the rift. So to know about Wukong, Yasuo, Yone, Kalista, all of the champions that got changed, and we have 14 of them, make sure you stick around for the whole video. And also, if you want to master any of the champions in the next 10 or so minutes, guys, check out the GameLeap website because we have champion courses, guys, and VOD analyses of the best players in the world that will 100% guarantee you to improve. And let's get into the video. So we're going to start by talking about the nerf champions in 12.7 and what has happened as a result of the changes. So the first champion we should talk about, and her win rate has dropped significantly across all ranks down to below 43%. This is one of the lowest I have ever seen, but thankfully in the last few hours Riot have released a hotfix which is hopefully going to push Zeri's win rate back up. Now, is it going to stabilize the win rate to around 50%? Not quite sure. We'll have to wait and see, but Riot trying to push Zeri towards a more crit-based setup has seen her become a much worse champion, and there isn't really a go-to build at the moment why Zeri players are really struggling, but hopefully the hotfix buff will actually make her viable. Now, next up we have to talk about Lee Sin, whose win rate has dropped close to 2%, and that's because his base attack damage got nerfed. So from having the highest base attack damage in the entire game, he now just has 66, which is a number that lots of other champions can boast about, and this is going to affect everything Lee Sin does in the early game. In terms of clearing camps, 1v1ing the enemy jungler, invading, ganking, you are going to get less kills and you are just naturally weaker. And this is compounded by the nerf to your Q. So your Q1 and Q2, the damage on both of these is down, so it's really not a great patch for Lee Sin, and this is why his win rate overall is just above 45%. But it's not as bad as the champion coming in next, whose win rate has dropped by 1.2, 1.3%, and this is Ryze. Now thankfully Ryze's win rate yesterday in Platinum and above, it was 40%, while across all ranks it's a little better at 42.5%, but it is still absolutely terrible. Like, I don't know if the balance team before they made the changes to Ryze in 12.7 were on the bongs, but it really just does not make sense. The QAP ratio going up, who cares about this? Like, tank Ryze is really the only way to play him, but no longer. Fimbulwinter has been nerfed, Ryze's mana on his Q has been nerfed, and his mana from a couple of patches ago, that was nerfed as well. To be honest, he is the worst champion in the game at the moment, which we talked about in yesterday's worst champions video, so you might want to check that out if you haven't already. And another champion who won't be sending an Easter egg to the balance team is Jace. His base armor going down and base HP means that in the top lane, he is a lot more vulnerable to attack damage champions because that's probably what you're going to see most of the time. And this is why his win rate is now 46%. And Jace just happens to be one of those champions you really have to be mechanically good on in order to make him work. So it takes a lot of time to get good at him, but just because he's a lot weaker in the top lane, I'd highly recommend taking him to the mid lane to give yourself a better chance of winning. Now, the next champion isn't really nerfed, but he did get changed in 12.7, and this is Rengar. And because his W is now going to help you clear camps quicker, because the damage is up, this is really nice for Rengar when you clear Krugs, walls, raptors, means you're accelerating that scaling, so hopefully you get to level 6 quicker, you use your ultimate, you get more bounties, maybe if you're taking Treasure Hunter, and because of this, Rengar's win rate in the jungle has improved, but he did get a little nerf in the sense that his Q is dealing less damage to structures, because before this patch you were shredding towers and getting them very quickly, but he's still in a great position, so there is no reason to stop playing Rango. Now, we've talked about the nerf champions, guys, let's up the mood a bit and talk about the buff champions for 12.7, and we should have a much happier time here. So first of all, we're going to talk about Nico. Now, unfortunately, Nico's win rate has gone down actually in 12.7 so far, but I think that's because people are testing out Nash's too, and maybe maxing their W second instead of last, but to be honest, I don't really think it's worth it. I still think maxing Q into E and going Rocket Belt, Shadow Flame, Magic Penetration build, I think this is the best way to go. The W buffs are just a nice buff. You shouldn't be tailoring your playstyle and your build and your skill order around the buff, so just stick to what you knew before and you should be more than fine. But the first champion in this video whose win rate has improved in the last few days, this is Gangplank, and because his base damage from his passive has improved, this has meant that GP's win rate has gone up as well. Also, the W buff, so it's costing less mana, this is going to help you a lot because in the early game, using your W can make you go very quickly, and W is a very important skill, giving you a bit of HP, cleansing the CC, so the fact you can use this more in the laning phase is super nice, and this is why GP's win rate has improved improved to around 47-48% overall across all ranks, but if you can get good at him, especially in higher elos, his win rate is a lot higher, so the pirate is worth putting the time into. Now next up, you can see that Pantheon is recommended as a support here, but I don't care about Pantheon as a support because, to be honest, I would much rather see you guys pick him in the mid lane because the Q distance has been buffed, so you can poke those ranged champions more, and his E is no longer going to slow him. So if you're tower diving in mid lane, if you're ulting from the mid lane to the bot lane, you have a much better chance of getting the kill and surviving, rather than just bombing in and trading 1-for-1. Also, what's nice is that your ultimate, the crash down, is a little bit quicker, so the enemy champions have less time to react to you jumping on their heads. And there might even be some interest around the new Umbral Glaive costing 100 less gold, and the ward timer going down 10 seconds, so if you're so balling super hard on Panth in the mid lane, you can even consider rushing an Umbral Glaive and roaming around the map and ending games in 10 minutes. And the mid lane as well is where Pantheon's win rate has improved the most, so keep that in mind when you lock in the Gladiator. But a champion who has actually doubled Pantheon's win rate in terms of improving in the last few days, this is Yone, because his ultimate has been buffed. So at later ranks it's lower, and in fact at level 16 it's 20 seconds on a lower cooldown. This is big, especially in lower elos, and you can see because these statistics are from all ranks, this is including bronze, silver, gold where most people play, and this is why Yone's win rate is over 50.5%. For a champion who, well, I don't really want to say he requires mechanics because he is kind of broken, but you do have to know how to use your abilities, when to use them, and how to queue them, so there is some skill involved, in his win rate being this high, I think it's pretty scary for any elo. Now ahead of Yone, I think a champion who warranted buffs this is Kalista, and her win rate since the changes has gone up by over 1%, and Kalista, I can't remember the last time I saw her in solo queue or even in pro play, so the buffs to her movement speed and attack speed per level in particular have moved her in the right direction. This is pretty much what you are as a champion, movement speed and attack speed. And what's also nice is that your base mana has gone up, so if you do tend to throw out a few too many Qs, or you don't get the mana refund from your rend, it gives you a bit more compensation to stuff up, which is always nice. So Kalista's win rate across the board, almost 49%, really good for a high skill ceiling champion. But if Yone wasn't enough for 12.7 guys, then his win brother, this is going to push everyone over the edge because Yasuo's win rate, look at this, is almost 52%. And this champion is the low elo nightmare, and to be honest, I kind of feel sorry for anyone playing against him because he has got so much better. His base HP going to 520 means that he's a lot more durable. This is really the big buff. And also his ultimate cooldown going down in the early ranks, so kind of the opposite to Yone. This is going to allow him to have more kill pressure and kill opportunities, and that means he's going to get more kills. So Yasuo is as annoying as ever, and you can even see the ban rate across all ranks is over 30%, so well done. Now 3 champions left guys who did get buffed and have improved even more than these other champions. The first one is Lilia, and because her passive's AP ratio is up, makes her scaling even better, and her early game also got a nice buff because her W, the base damage is up. So any buff in the early game for a scaling champion like Lilia is going to give her the security she needs so she can actually get to 1, 2, 3 items and then take over a game. So it's nice to see a bit of Lilia back, and hopefully all of you Hecarim mains have migrated to this female iteration because she is 10 times better than the Heck. Now the champion who has benefited the second most from 12.7, this is Gwen, and her win rate is back around 47%, which is nice. Now you still might not have the E's attack range, but what you do have is a higher cooldown refund on the E after you auto attack after using it, and your ultimate's cooldown is also down, and in the laning phase this is going to be so beneficial. This makes your 1v1 even stronger if it wasn't strong enough already, so it's nice to see Gwen's win rate in the last few days improve by around 2.3%. And any Gwen mains, any of these champion mains, if you guys are out there, let me know in the comments exactly what you think of the buffs and nerfs to your favorite champions in 12.7. But the champion guys who is banging his stick in 12.7, this is Wukong, and because his Q's cooldown is down by 1 second and your auto attacks refund your Q's cooldown, maxing this first is essential and just straight up broken. Your W as well can now send you over walls and terrain and structure. This is super broken, especially if you're playing him in the jungle, because you can get some red hot ganks off and flanks during team fights. And his E is also dealing a bit more damage in terms of AP, but it's also dealing more damage to monsters. This is nice for your clear speed, and you can see that if you want to play Wukong in the top lane, these buffs still benefit you. His win rate in the top lane is actually pretty much exactly the same as it is in the jungle, around 51.25%. So the Kong being viable in 2 roles and just improving this much, that's why he is the biggest winner of 12.7. So hopefully guys, this video gave you the insight and gave you the context you needed to understand what's happening in 12.7 and how these champions have changed in the last few days. And if you did enjoy the video, please remember to leave a like down below, and I will see you in tomorrow's daily season 12 upload. This has been Coach Jigs. Peace.